Hi, my name is Mariana Gomez, and today we're going to talk about three short stories and their analysis. The first story is The Actress by Agatha Christie. It was first published in 1923. It's the tale of Nancy Taylor, whose new identity is the actress Olga Stone. A letter is delivered the next day to Olga's dressing room, and she's being threatened by Jack Levitt, and she discusses it with her agent. She decides to make an invite letter to Levitt to meet her at her house at 9 o'clock that evening. Later that day, Levitt knocks on the door and realizing it was open, he walks into a note from Olga that is on the table saying that she will be back in about minutes. A few moments later, Levitt sees an arm sticking out from behind the curtains. There is a woman laying there and he thinks it's Olga. Suddenly, a maid appears and accuses him of murder as she has seen him with both cords in his hands. Levitt thinks he has been set up. He is stuck, but as the maid reaches out for the little revolver on the table, he makes a run for it and gets away. He leaves the country without delay. In the end, we realize that Olga actually set the stage with the scene for the meeting with Levitt, and the woman's body was made up with a tourniquet so that she had no pulse. The maid who accuses him of assassinate it ends up being the same Olga characterized. It's a great short story, full of curiosity and mystery. This is the style of Agatha. Her novels fill one with mystery, and needless to say that they are very interesting. Her writings were characterized by her great description of the events and characters, of her great definition of upper-class characters. Agatha used to draw inspiration from the people around her and how we can see someone and we may be surprised at what they might be able to do. Agatha used to write about murders, but these were orchestrated by a woman. For this reason, it was difficult to write her books, as it was something that was not used to imagine. In her writings, we can see how controversy creates in the public the fact that the woman is seen as a murderer, and in the books, that do not see it wrong. Agatha's full name was Dame Agatha Mary Clarissa Christie, born in September 15 of the year 1890 in Turcoy, Devon. She wed to Colonel Archibald Christie in 1914 and took up nursing during World War I. In 1926, her mother died and her husband revealed that he was in a relationship with another woman. Traumatized by this, Christie disappeared only to be discovered by authorities several days later at the Harrogate Hotel, registered under the name of her husband's mistress. The second story is The Blue Cross by Gilbert Keith Chesterton. In this book, Aristide Valentin, the head of the police department in Paris, is sent to London to arrest a thief named Flambeau, who is considered a master of disguises. As Valentin is walking through London, his attraction is suddenly drawn to two Catholic priests. One is short and the other is tall. The short priest acts strangely so that he would attract attention. He deliberately throws soup on a wall in a restaurant, upsets the apples outside of a grocery store, and breaks a window in another restaurant. The tall priest, who is in fact Flambeau, orders Father Brown to turn over the sapphire cross that he was carrying to a church in Hampstead. Father Brown tells him that two strong policemen and Valentin are waiting behind a tree in order to arrest Flambeau. The astonished Flambeau asks Father Brown how he knew that he was not a real priest. Later, we learn that Father Brown's suspicion began when the tall priest affirmed that only modern infidels appeal to reason, whereas true Catholics have no use for it. Father Brown tells Flambeau, "You attack to reason, it's back theology." His intuition told him that his tall companion could not have been a priest, and he was right. J.K. Chesterton was an English author, journalist, and artist dedicated his extraordinary intellect to the reform of English government and society. In 1922, he converted to Roman Catholicism and became its champion. Apart from his psychic and novelistic writings, Chesterton focused on detective narrative. The third story is A Scandal in Bohemia, written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is one of the 56 Sherlock Holmes short stories written by Doyle. It's the first of the 12 stories collected as The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. It was originally published in the Strand magazine in July 1891. The story is told from Watson's perspective. Holmes was visited by a masked gentleman introducing himself as Count von Graham, an agent for a wealthy client. But Holmes quickly deduces that he is in fact the Grand Duke of Castle Felstein, an hereditary king of Bohemia. The king admits this, tearing off his mask. It transpires that the king is engaged to a young Scandinavian princess, but the king's in-laws would have a very low opinion of him if any evidence of his former liaison with an opera singer named Irene Adler were ever revealed to them. Unfortunately, this is what the lady herself is threatening to do, and apparently not though for monetary gain, for the king's agents have already tried to buy the evidence. It is a photograph described to Holmes as a cabinet, and therefore too bulky for a lady to carry upon her person, showing both the king and Adler. The king gives Holmes £1,000 cover any expenses. Holmes asks Dr. Watson to join him in the following afternoon. The next morning, Holmes goes to Mrs. Adler's house and manages to elicit useful information. Irene Adler has a friend, Godfrey Norton, a lawyer who calls at least once a day. This named Norton comes to visit Miss Adler and soon afterwards takes a cab to the Church of St. Monica. Minutes later, the lady herself gets in her landau bound for the same place. Holmes follows in a cab. Arriving, he finds himself being a witness to Godfrey Norton and Irene Adler's wedding. Watson prefaces his narrative with an explanation of Holmes' relationship with Irene, offering readers essential insight into Holmes. He is intelligent and unemotional. It also establishes that his story is not so much about the events that transpire, but rather about setting the stage for this monumental matching of wits between Holmes and Irene. The relationship between Holmes and Watson is an essential aspect of all the Sherlock Holmes stories, although it seems slightly distant here due to their differences in lifestyle. Watson notes both Holmes' dedication to detective work and his cocaine addiction, painting Holmes as a reclusive obsessive. Holmes' detecting abilities become clear, though no less amazing, when explained by his companion, Dr. John H. Watson, who recounts the criminal cases they jointly pursue. Sir Doyle was a prolific writer. His works include fantasy and science fiction stories, as well as plays, romances, poetry, non-fiction, and historical novels. One of Doyle's early short stories, J. Habakkuk Jefferson's Statement in 1884, helped to popularize the mystery of the Mary Celeste. The young medical student met a number of future authors who were also attending university. However, the man who most impressed him was one of his teachers, Dr. Joseph Bell. The good doctor was a master at observation, logic, deduction, and diagnosis. All these qualities were later to be found in the persona that he celebrated in the Sherlock Holmes novels. We can conclude that these three short stories are a great source of mystery and lead the reader to seek for the solution of the case with the data that is being given throughout the story. All three are amazing and well-known writers. We all know Sherlock Holmes, and he is an explanatory detective for many. In these stories, we can develop skills such as information analysis, deduction, problem solving, etc. They are great books worth reading.